Honey, I'm home. Honey, Packers won the Super Bowl. Woo! Packers! Packers! Packers won the Super Bowl. Packers!
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Le who? The her.
And now it's time for another edition of the 12th Man Fan Jam. With your hosts, the Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you, Magic Voice, the 12th Man Fan Jam. I am indeed the Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church Seahawk Positivity, and welcome one and all to another wonderful episode of the 12th Man Fan Jam, the show made by Seattle Seahawk fans around the world who love to talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Over the next hour or so, we hope you're entertained, we hope you're enlightened, and we hope that you're enthralled while I and the posse talk about your defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks as we review how they completely destroyed the Green Bay Packers. So sit back, relax, imbibe a sin of your choice, but remember, the answer to the question, why not us, is because the Seahawks are in your way. But before we jump into dissecting this great Thursday night football game, let me tell you that we are not alone. No, as always, I am joined by my 12th Man Fan Jam posse. First, my partner in crime, the yin to my yang. His cheese is never runny. It's a Monty Python reference. Look it up, kids. He's from merry old England. His name is Matt.
Good morning, Moses. How are you?
Wonderful, Matt. How are you this morning?
Brilliant. Brilliant. It's just been a fantastic day all round, really.
Oh, fantastic. It was a beautiful day yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And then there's our news hound. His 12th Man editorial is found on SeahawksOut.com. He's easy, breezy, and never cheesy. You know him as Shadowhawk. We know him as Will.
Hey, Moses, and I'm sure glad we won yesterday because I didn't want to have to spend $100 on a Pharrell concert.
Soundgarden wasn't too bad, though. But they only played a couple songs.
Soundgarden was fun.
Yeah. But they only played a couple songs. But yeah, you have to hear Happy like at least one more time before your head explodes, I think.
Too late.
Yeah, I know. And speaking of heads exploding, no. From behind enemy lines in nasty California, where there's a lot more wine than cheese, you know him as Statsman Mark.
Hello, everybody. This is Mark reporting 15 minutes southwest from Levi Stadium, where I have just been subpoenaed to testify by the district attorney in the Ray McDonald case.
Oh, my God. I can't wait to hear how that comes out. So we'll be keeping you in mind. And folks, if you want to donate to him to help the cause, we'll show you how to do that here in a minute. And of course,
Mark's Legal Defense Fund.
Yes, Mark Legal's Defense Fund. And finally, he's a friend, he's a father, he's a regular on our show, also from the state of Washington. He always cuts the cheese and blames the dog. You know him as X-Ray Hawk. We know him as Dustin.
That's the only reason we got a dog, to be honest with you.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
No.
Poor dog. I know we're excited to get into talking about this Packer game, so much so that we have made a whole show devoted to nothing but talking about that first game of the year between your Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. So let's talk about how this show is going to run. If this is your first time, welcome to the show. We're glad you're here, and please don't worry, we will be gentle unless you're a Packer fan. Quarter one, it's run like a regular show, like a football game, 4 quarters and a halftime show. In the first quarter, Will and his glorious news will talk about the stories that we may have missed because we were too busy celebrating a wonderful victory by our Seattle Seahawks. We will also have our wonderful, glorious headlines and punchlines, where we take a headline from the NFL and apply our own little wit and humor to it. So you don't want to miss that at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, we're going to talk about our predictions, our prognostications, and our game balls from last week for Thursday's victory over the Packers. We all made predictions and prognostications and game balls last show, and we did a pretty darn good job as a group. You'll find out in a moment. Halftime, we're going to do something a little different again. We always try something a little different at halftime. It seems that there are a lot of tweets on Twitter that were rather amusing. So I thought at halftime we'd share some of those about the Seahawk and Packer game in a little section we're going to call Seahawk Tweets. And quarter 3, we'll discuss the Seahawk offense performance against the Packers. And quarter 4, we'll discuss the Seahawk defensive performances against the Packers. And we want to remind you that we'd like to hear from you out there. Give us an email, won't you? Comment on the YouTube video. Send us a brief message. Send us a snapshot. Send us film, anything. 12manfanjam@gmail.com. And speaking of that very topic, before we go into the news with our news hound Will, I'd like to do some shout-outs.
Hey, can I do a shout-out? Shout-out.
Yes, here are some shout-outs. Here's some feedback we received from our show last week from Seahawks.net. Kearley said, I listened to a lot of professional podcasts. This is almost as good. Very impressive. We strive to be almost as good as professionals. We appreciate that. MB12 said, this is just as good in my opinion. Thanks once again, everyone, which was nice. And good old Sal, a friend of the show from SeahawksSal.com, said quality broadcast as usual. And on the video, Leg Zero Full, which I think is Lego Full, said best headline punchline I've ever heard. And I think he's referring to the 49er edition of Headlines and Punchlines we did last week. So, gentlemen, shall we dive into this wonderful show and start talking about this wonderful game we had Thursday night? Is that okay with you guys?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, let's start off with news. Yes, news from the world of the NFL, because you were too busy screaming at Aaron Rodgers. Our news hound Will gives you all the news that you need to keep yourself well aware of things that are going on. Will, what have you got for us this evening?
Well, Moses, it's kind of hard to come on after hearing all that praise for our last show, but I think I've found a couple of news stories that will live up to our rave reviews here.
It's a high bar.
Well, very true. But
yeah.
The first one concerns Wes Welker, who, as we all know, has been suspended for the first 4 games of the regular season as part of as a violation of the NFL's policy against performance-enhancing drugs. Welker apparently took Molly at the Kentucky Derby, which is MDMA cut with amphetamines, or that's what Matt tells me. I don't know the world of illegal drugs that well.
Did he take it with his pimp hand?
Yeah, Molly whopping. But anyway, Welker is not only upset about the results, but he's apparently turning into a creator for truth, justice, and the American way. Mike Kliss of the Denver said that he would never knowingly take a substance to gain a competitive advantage in any way, of course. However, he moved on to say that he has never been concerned with the league's performance-enhancing or drug abuse policies because under no scenario would they ever apply to me. But I now know that they are clearly flawed, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that they are corrected, so other individuals and teams aren't negatively affected so rashly like this.
Oh, he's such a martyr, isn't he?
Well, just to point out for the record, according to witnesses, he was whacked out of his mind at the Kentucky Derby and ran around handing out $100 bills to random strangers.
Exactly. He was like passing $100. What I want to know about the Molly is, did he get it from Miley Cyrus? That's what I want to know, because she dances with Molly all the time. Finger. Yeah, exactly. Oh, who knows what that's been? That is almost as funny. You remember when Elvis became a narc for the government? That's almost that funny. That Wes Walker is, bless his heart, he's going to take one for everybody. Mark,
it's like OJ searching for the real killers.
It is, isn't it? Mark, what do you think about Wes Walker there taking one for everybody? Do you think he's really thinking of everyone else here?
Well, I doubt it. All I know with Wes Walker is if they ever make a biopic about that guy, they could cast Tobey Maguire to play him.
Or Vern Troyer.
Yeah. Oh, a mini-me reference. Dustin, have you ever danced with Miley Cyrus?
Not that I recall, but I drink a lot, so it's possible.
Yeah.
That's a fair answer. Definitely.
Also, take one for the team. Matt, do they call it? Do they call drugs Molly over in England, or what do they call them?
I have no idea.
Good call. Good answer.
We call them the regular names that everybody else calls them. Obviously, and I wouldn't know.
But over in England, you get pissed, you get drunk, right?
Oh yeah. You got to remember, Moses, at some point in the near future, I want to be able to get into the United States again in order to watch football. So now is not the time for me to suggest in any way that any form of narcotics may cross my body.
Y'all a bunch of politically correct animals. Unbelievable. Well, poor Wes. I hope that he takes one for the rest of us, and he can help bring this injustice to full light. What else have you got for us in the meantime, Will?
Well, Moses, speaking of illicit substances, it's been since last December since former Seahawk Walter Thurman has been suspended for smoking marijuana, but after his comments this week, I think he's smoking something. If you'll recall last year, Cowboys receiver Dez Bryant went off on Calvin Johnson, basically saying that he was as good as Calvin Johnson, and the Lions receiver responded with 14 receptions and 329 yards. Mm-hmm. Well, Walter Thurman is also taking a shot at Calvin Johnson, basically saying, everyone knows he's a talented guy, but being a big receiver, he has some weaknesses for sure. There's always benefits to being able to get out of a break quicker than your man, and it takes Johnson longer to get out of his stuff where the ball is coming in. And if we can get out and beat him to the route, we've won that play. So Thurman has now become the next person to inexplicably take shots at Calvin Johnson, and I expect similar results as in the past.
Inexplicably is right. Dustin, this guy gets picked on all the time. I don't get it.
Yeah, I have no idea. I guess if in order to get your name out there, you got to take shots at people that would elevate your status, and I think that's what he's doing. When Thurman ended up going to New York, I remember he said that he thinks New York's going to be the best secondary in the league that year, or this coming up year. So I think he just likes to run his mouth a little bit, and the problem is he can't back it up in the same way that our guy does.
Yeah, very true. Mark,
I'll listen to Walter Thurman if he can shut Calvin Johnson down, but until then, I ain't seeing it.
I agree. Mark, what has Calvin Johnson done to the rest of the NFL to just make them want to trash talk him?
I'm not sure. He's hanging out in relatively obscurity, being in Detroit.
Yeah. That's very true. Very true. Sad but true. But he just seems like a nice guy. I don't understand, but maybe, like you said, Walter Thurman, was suspended for drugs. We're not saying that, but sounds like the guy's still got a little bit in the system.
Didn't a rookie, someone say, wasn't it a rookie that said that Calvin Johnson was too old and too slow? Didn't that happen? Didn't somebody say that before the season? That he was too old?
Yeah, that happened either this year or last year. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember who.
I can't remember who it was.
It makes no sense.
It was definitely a rookie who just turned around and said that Calvin Johnson is too slow or something to play that position, and that it won't be a problem. And I just remember that show thinking, it's sort of, if you're the best in your position, and I know I'm not saying he is, but he's certainly up there. But if you put yourself on that pedestal, you get pot shots. Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah. Real quick, Aaron Rodgers was interviewed about the crowd noise, and I thought he had the perfect answer for an opposing team coming in. He said, yes, it is a problem. Yes, it does cause distractions, but we've got to play our game regardless. And it's like with Calvin Johnson. Yes, he's a great receiver. He's the best receiver in the game, but I still got to play against this guy and see how good I am. Why do you have to nitpick, and not address the fact that Calvin Johnson's the best receiver in football? I don't understand why you have to make it sound like, well, he's nobody. Oh, come on. That's ridiculous.
Well, that's the same. That's the same as saying that Richard Sherman's not the best cornerback in the league because he doesn't get to play up against the best, receivers. The fact is that a third of that field is shut down.
Exactly.
Because one of the best quarterbacks in the game is too scared, and I'm going to use that phrase, too scared to throw it in his direction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Very true. And we'll talk about that when we talk about defense for sure. But that came from our friend Heinz Ward during the game, and I thought, oh yeah, okay. Well, Heinz, it's not 2004 anymore. But anyway, let's move on to the last story. Will, what do you got for us finally?
Well, Moses, you remember last year when Colin Kaepernick raised a bit of controversy when he trademarked his signature move and the phrase Kaepernicking?
Oh, definitely.
Well, we have another young player in the league. The league in trademarks, and I think you can guess who this is. It's our old friend Johnny Manziel, who
Johnny.
just this week filed for a trademark for the term Johnny Cleveland, according to ESPN.
Oh, because that's what I use a lot.
Well, it gets better because Manziel's company, J-Man2 Enterprises, LLC, yes, that's the real name,
nice,
has trademarked over 10 phrases by now, including such gems as Johnny Football, JFF, and the house that Johnny built, referring to Texas A&M's new stadium. So,
holy crap!
He has yet to play a down of football that matters, but he's trademarking the hell out of it.
The next trademark he's getting is "I'm a permanent backup in the NFL."
Has he got Johnny Bust?
Boy, Cleveland just makes the news for all the wrong reasons. You guys saw that story about Cribbs he's selling cars now? Well,
yes.
Oh, Josh Gordon, yeah.
Josh Gordon, yeah.
Gordon, that's right, yeah.
Josh Gordon selling cars, yeah. Johnny Manziel, Mark, you have any trademarks you want to bring up?
Well, I'm wondering, Josh Gordon, are the cars he's selling, do they come loaded?
Yes.
They have little hidden compartments under the seats.
Mark is on fire tonight. Excellent.
Yeah, Manziel. In a couple of years, Johnny Manziel is going to need to trademark the phrase "Taco Bell Night Manager."
That could have been our headline and punchline. Johnny Manziel's new copyrights, and we'll keep that in the back of our minds for later. But Johnny Manziel's new copyrights, that could have been a great one.
Yeah, we can use it if it's a slow week.
We can use it a slow week. It's not a slow week, though. Will, thank you so much. And one final thing before we end the first quarter. As I just mentioned the headlines and punchlines, it is time to bring in our own edition of this week's headlines and punchlines.
Headlines. Punchline.
Yes, headlines and punchlines. And this week we're going to take what happened Thursday night as our headlines and our punchlines. So our headline this evening is the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night. Now I know that Matt has one and Will has a couple and I have a couple. So we will start with Will and then we'll go to me, and then we'll go to Matt, and then Will and I will battle it out to the end of the first quarter. Are we ready? Anybody else have any ones before we continue? All right, here we go.
Nope.
Here we go. I'll lead you in. Will, you ready?
I'm set.
All right. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night.
Packer fans continue to complain about the Fail Mary.
And like I said last week, it's not a Fail Mary if it works. It's a Success Mary. Matt, you ready?
Yes, you got it.
All right. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night.
It was Welker was too high to notice.
Oh.
All right, my turn. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night. That sound you heard from California was Jim Harbaugh crapping his pants.
No, is that what that was?
That's what that was. Will, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night.
Aaron Rodgers lobbies NFL to institute a mercy rule.
You know they were all scheming after that game.
I've got one.
Oh, okay. Matt, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night.
And Roger Goodell thinks like 40 new rules to stop this ever happening again.
True.
My turn. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night. 5 teams on the Seahawks schedule immediately file for forfeits. And finally from Will, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night.
Liquor sales amongst NFL defensive coordinators up by over 20%.
Are you, Matt, are you out?
We're done.
You with him? Okay, I'll move on. And the very final one, the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers by 20 points Thursday night. Cutting the cheese never felt better.
It's the end of the first quarter, bitches.
And that's the end of the first quarter. We're going to take a quick break, take a station identification, and we'll come back and talk about that very game, see how our panel did on the predictions, prognostications, and game balls. Remind you that you're listening to 12th Man Fan Jam, and we will be right back after this.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Gonna beat you now, so get out of our town.
And now it's time for the second quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. Here to take you through the second quarter is once again our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you once again, Magic Voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam, and welcome to quarter 2 of our show. Once again, if you would like to make a comment or a request, 12manfanjam@gmail.com is our email. We want to remind you that. Right now, we're going to go back to the show last week. Everyone here on the panel made a prediction of the score. They also made a prognostication of something they think was going to happen during the game. And they also gave a pregame ball. So we're going to see how we all did on that. And I got news for you. This posse was pretty much on it overall. So let's look at the scores. The scores are up on your screen right now. Moses, myself, I said 27-13. Matt said 26-10. Mark said 27-17. Will said 31-16. And Dustin said 42-17. Really, really good scores. The final score, of course, was 36-16. So it has to be Will, who just missed it by 5 points. He said 31-16. It was 36-16. Dustin, a close second. Matt, even good at 26-10. That's pretty good. Mark's score was pretty good. My score wasn't bad. But, Will, congratulations. You win a Seattle Seahawk cheese grater. So, congratulations. We'll be sending that off to you soon. Enjoy that with your favorite cheeses. I know you will. Yeah, anything you want to say for winning the score?
Well, it's not about me. It's about the team.
That's good. That's good.
Is the Wes Welker of the posse.
It's funny going up to the going up to this game. A lot of people had told me around where I live that this is going to be a blowout. Like they were like, "You're going to blow them out," and I thought, "Wow, I hate to feel that way, but we'll talk more about this later." But it kind of got that way, didn't it? Yeah. All right, now for the prognostications. And the prognostications are also up on your screen. I said a pick six by Sherman. Well, that's hard to do if they don't throw to him. So I'm kind of out of that one. Matt said a safety. Guess what? It was a safety. It was just unbelievable. And the kids love it. Yeah. The kids love the safety. You nailed it.
Well, I said it would be the first score of the game. It wasn't. Sadly,
that's true.
I'd be packing to go to Vegas, wouldn't I, Will?
That's true. See, Will would owe you a Vegas trip. Mark said a touchdown for Harbin. He had 100 overall yards, but he didn't get a touchdown. Will did, again, very well. 140 yards and 2 touchdowns for Beast Mode. 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very close. Dustin said Wilson would pass for over 400 yards. He passed for 198, but that's because he ran for over 250 yards, so that's probably why. I'm still giving it to Matt. Though, even though he did say at the beginning of the game, but I'm still going because you pick a safety in a game and it happens. That's pretty good. You gotta admit. So Matt, you win the 12-man Fan Jam home game, which is a broken headset, and I'll be sending that to you soon.
So you know what? That can go with my current broken headset, which I have just managed to break.
Oh, congratulations! Congratulations! If you're not breaking chairs, you're breaking that, man. That's unbelievable.
Man, keep this man out of the China shop. Please.
No doubt. Finally, the game balls. The game balls. Matt and I said Sherman would get a game ball. Mark said Harvin would get a game ball. Will went with Lynch, and Dustin also went with Harvin. You could argue that if you don't throw to a guy's side, that's pretty good. You could also argue with Harvin, even though he didn't have the big numbers, his impact on the offense I think was shown pretty easily. But I think once again, Will gets the game ball unless anyone wants to argue that Lynch didn't deserve it between those three people.
Beast was beast mode.
Oh,
yeah.
He was amazing.
20 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he's got to get it.
I think
there
so,
were
too.
A couple stretches in that game where I wished he was getting it more. I mean, especially after Maxwell's pick, when we had the ball down on the 8-yard line, I was screaming, "Run the ball, feed the beast!" And we threw 2 out of 3 times. But,
right.
Yeah, Lynch was on fire, and I think he's got a lot to prove this year, and I think we can expect a lot more of this.
Yeah, I think so, too. I definitely think so. So we'll give Will that. Will, for getting the right game ball person, you get a free empty packet of Skittles, so enjoy that.
Well, thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. A quick story here before we end the second quarter and go into halftime. I want to tell you a quick story that happened to me living thousands of miles away from Seattle. I've never had a blacked out Seahawk game because I live far enough to where that's never an issue, right? So about a week ago, about 10 days ago, I get a message from my DirecTV that NBC affiliate on my station is going to be shut off August 31st. And of course, that's right before the game on Thursday. And it's on NBC of all luck. So, of course, sure enough, they do cancel. But I'm not panicking because I've got one of those HT-TV antennas. So I hook it up and I get all the channels programmed in I can get all the local channels. I'm pretty close to Indy. Close enough to get every channel except one. And that's the NBC affiliate. So I'm still without the NBC affiliate on Wednesday night thinking, what am I going to do? A friend came to my rescue and bailed me out. I'll be forever grateful to that person. But then here's the funny part. About a quarter and a half, right after the Seahawks took the lead, when they went up 10-7, I got a message on my phone from a Seahawk fan living here very close to me. And they were home with their family. It's a husband and wife and 2 kids. And I told them they could come over, but of course they had kids sleeping and they couldn't. And also they get this text, "Hey, we're back on NBC." And so I got to actually watch from the time the Seahawks were up 10-7 on my own TV, which was exciting for me, but it was kind of a stressful evening trying to find that game. So very sad, but all's well ends well, I guess. So
glad it worked out.
Yeah, never been that hard to watch the game. You guys that went, Dustin, what was the atmosphere in the stadium?
High energy, real loud. It was just amazing. Everything you would expect it to be, being the first game of the season and watching that banner get unveiled. I mean, it was everything you could have possibly expected. So it was great, man. It felt great being back over there.
Fantastic. Well, you had quite a crew. You took a nice little limo ride. And how was your experience on game day?
Oh, it was great. I mean, we had a fun trip to and from. It only cost $25 a head, which not too bad when you consider some of the lots were charging $120 to park your car. But yeah, actual game itself was great. I mean, everybody was screaming their heads off. It was fun to see the banner. And what I really enjoyed also was Walter Jones got his Hall of Fame ring at halftime. And so it was fun to see Jones and Largent and Kennedy as the 3 full-time Seahawk Hall of Famers, they were all there, and seeing Jones get his ring, it was just a great thing to be there for.
It was. I got to admit, seeing those three up there, I got a little misty. A little bit. I don't know why, but I just got a little misty with that. Mark, how did you feel when you saw those three guys up there raising that flag?
That was just awesome because I realized that not only are those three Hall of Famers, but they're just slam dunk Hall of Famers. I mean, they were just pretty much really the very best at their position.
And all three of them never played a game in a different uniform, which I pointed out to my son in between my gulps while I was trying to speak, which is just, when's the next time you'll see that ever happen? Matt, what was your game experience overall?
Well, I had to watch it on Game Pass, which is an online streamed, and it was very late. It was 1:30 in the morning here, so it was on very late. And unfortunately, Game Pass, as reliable as it normally is, I didn't get to see the 12th man flag actually being raised. What I saw was about a millisecond of the three standing there waving the, twirling the towels, and then they went on to the game. So I didn't actually get to see that moment. But from my look, and I wasn't there, but obviously, but from my look, it looked like there was actually more Seahawk fans there, and often you see little pockets of away fans have started to sort of creep in. I don't know whether it's true, but they didn't look as if there was that many Green Bay fans there. Maybe there was, and they obviously didn't show them, but it didn't look like that to me. But it sounded awesome, and seeing that the championship banner come down was just fantastic.
It was.
Well, Matt, I can... sorry, Moses.
No, please.
About the Packer fans really quick. There were plenty of Packer fans, but a lot fewer Packer fans than there were 2 years ago. I mean, I remember watching that Monday Night Football game, and there were enough Packer fans to get chants going in the stands during the game, which pissed me off to no end. So, yeah, it's a lot better job of having Seahawk fans there instead of Packer fans this time.
That was Wilson's third game. Third game was that game. Can you believe that?
Come a long way since then.
He's come a little way since then. And we have come a long way, too.
Holy shit, it's halftime!
And that's the end of the second quarter. We will take a quick station identification. We'll come back with a new thing called Seahawk Tweets for halftime. And we'll be back after this station identification.
Hey, this is Matt, all the way from merry old England, and you're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam.
Welcome to halftime of the 12th Man Fan Jam. Once again, here is our host, the Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, welcome to halftime. Thank you, magic voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam. We have reached the halfway point of this wonderful post-Packer celebration show, so to speak. The Seahawks started their season on Thursday night with a 36-16 shellacking of the Green Bay Packers in front of a national audience. It was amazing. It was wonderful. And we thought we'd take halftime here and say we have a couple features coming up. The first one is based on Twitter. I don't know if you all are familiar, but there's this thing on the internet called Twitter, and people put out little tweets or twits or twitters or whatever you want to call it. And during the game, I found some pretty amusing ones. So I thought that we would kind of share some of the twitters that I saw, or tweets or twinkles or whatever you want to call them, in a little section I like to call Seahawk Tweets. Yes, Seahawk Tweets, when Twitter makes you titter. Here we go. These are real, actual tweets that were sent out during, before, or after the Seahawk game. All right. The first one comes from someone called Mina Kimes. Mina Kimes wrote, Richard Sherman gets less action than a guy who... Oh, hey, drummer, take it easy.
Premature.
Let's try it again.
Timing.
Timing.
Wow.
Let's try it again. The first tweet tweet, whatever, comes from Mina Kimes.
Twat.
And they write, Richard Sherman gets less action than a guy who lives with his mom. Apparently everyone lives with their mom, so we won't go. Okay. Another one said 12, Charles Cutley 12. He wrote, or she wrote, forget Revis Island, it's Sherman's Hemisphere. No one throws to him. I like Sherman Hemisphere. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's nice.
Local celebrity Dave Softy Mahler wrote, Brock Coyle walking off the field, I'm so damn happy I'm a Seahawk. Which I thought, I think he would be after that game. If you never did a daggone thing, you're sitting on the sidelines all game, you're like, whoo, I love this. Mm-hmm. Another celebrity, Mike Salk, out of 710 ESPN, said, so Russell Wilson is 6-0 against Brady, Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers. No biggie.
Just another day at the office.
Sean Dolance wrote, but the Seahawks lost to Oakland. Which I thought was pretty funny. Dejan Kokachevic said, watching the Seahawks tonight is like watching Gandhi. They give away the ending and the opening scene. Pete Demolatis said, the Packers revealed the blueprint for avoiding Richard Sherman tonight. Don't throw to one side of the field, lose by 20 points. And finally, NW Dave 12 sent this Twitter out to the world. The Packers fans in the seats in front of me last night said incredulously, does everybody really stand the whole game? They left at halftime.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing. So those are some mildly amusing, apparently, Seahawk tweets. I thought they were funny, but there was also one from Brandon Browner where he actually fell asleep during the game, woke up and found out Maxwell had an interception. I thought that was kind of funny too. True story. Here, I'll share that one with you because I got some stickers for that. Brandon Browner tweeted, I dozed off for half of the third quarter and apparently Byron got a pick. Hashtag I told you so. So those are our tweets for this evening.
Happy for Maxwell.
Yes. Yes, I like the hashtag I told you so. Those are some funny Seahawk tweets that happened during the game, after the game. But Matt has some things that really bugged him. So we're going to see what's bugging Matt before we close halftime. Matt, why are you bugging?
Oh, there's just... Do you know these commentators that the Americans put on things? And they're all the perfect teeth and wonderful hair. And they all sit there and they start gabbling away in between plays because they've got to fill time. And they start their mouths just start saying stupid things. So they'll start saying things like, Aaron Rodgers, got to be, he's one of the best quarterbacks ever. Yeah, well done, congratulations. And then they'll say something like, we really should think about adding Russell Wilson soon to that list of people. And I'm thinking, yeah, he's won a Super Bowl. Congratulations. He's pretty good. And then one of them says, oh yeah, but don't forget about Luck. Luck. Everyone's forgotten about Luck. Who the hell remembers Luck? He hasn't done anything since he joined the NFL, apart from being remembered by commentators who are trying to fill time in other people's games. Wow. And then just to add extra little bit of more filling time, let's go down to the sideline to a pointless lady who's standing down there for no reason wearing heels on an NFL field, who's going to turn around and tell us that if she stands far enough away from the microphone, nobody can hear her. It's loud.
It's kind of like on Family Guy, the weather guy. Now we go down to Michelle Tafoya for the sound line. Michelle, it's loud down here. Okay, thanks, Michelle.
That's exactly what she does. She goes, if I stand 4 paces away, you can't hear me.
Why can't she always stand 4 paces away?
And then what they did is they got a Packers helmet. I don't know whether they just took Aaron Rodgers, but they took his helmet, shoved it on a table, got a radio, and said, "This is what it sounds like an Aaron Rodgers head."
It sounded like gargling.
It's no wonder that 4th and 5 conversion didn't happen. If that's what it sounded like. the worst impression of McCarthy. That they should shut up more and just get on with the game. There we go.
I agree.
Matt Moan over.
I agree.
No more Matt Moan.
Testify.
Man, amen to that. Matt, woo! We're going to have to get you a towel.
That was quite cathartic, actually. I feel better for that now. I've sort of released, so to speak.
Halftime release.
Whoa.
A halftime release by Matt. And that's what we...
Molly now.
Yeah, you go get mollywopped. And we're going to take a break now at halftime. That was the Seahawk tweets and Matt rant, I guess, if you would.
Matt Moan.
Well, let's not call it Matt's Moan. That does not sound... No, we're not... New section called What Bugs Matt? No, Matt, why are you bugging?
Why are you bugging? That's alright. ain't nobody got time for this sort of stuff.
Matt's gonna go and relax a minute. We're gonna take a quick break, let Matt gather himself, and then we are going to talk about the Seahawks offense and defense and how they performed in this wonderful 36-16 win on opening night in front of a nationally televised audience. Remind you, you're listening to 12th Man Fan Jam. We'll be back after this brief station identification.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
We are absolutely sure that this song is going to be in the loudest stadium in the world. Come on, guys. It's got to happen. It's got to happen when he walks out the field.
Welcome to the third quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. So once again, let us join our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you, Magic Voice, the 12th Man Fan Jam. Welcome to the third quarter of a post-Packer pummeling, if you would. We're going to talk about the offense and defense. We took a break at halftime to get Matt under control, and apparently Matt has completely passed out. Okay, he's back. Matt was a little out of control there, but we got him feeling better, and then there was this loud noise, and nobody knows, someone passed out or something fell, and then Matt thought maybe it was something. Matt, what did you think it was?
Well, obviously Dustin's a bit of a drinker, as we all know, so I just assumed it was Dustin has collapsed.
Not yet. It's way too early for that.
Oh my God. Okay.
The other thing is, you see, is that Dustin's also quite short. I think at last measurement, what, you 3'3"? And,
on a good day, yeah.
In heels. And the trouble is that obviously in order to be able to, you know, when you send kids to the barbers and they have to sit in the chair and they have to have one of them little booster seats. So Dustin's got one of those on his desk chair as well. So he could have just fell straight out of that.
Oh my God.
It's easy to fall out of.
Oh my
very
God.
easy to fall out of.
Oh my God. Oh yes. Okay. Oh my God. So anyway, there was a loud noise, and he thought it was Dustin, and it wasn't. So we're actually going to talk some football.
If no one's ever seen Dustin, he looks like the little doll out of Saw. If anyone has that little doll.
Oh my God. Hey, stop picking on Dustin.
That's normally me.
Let us all get a chance at it. Oh, pick on Dustin.
Let Dustin come back.
Oh my God. We actually, you know, I don't know if you knew this, but Dustin did sing in a choir.
Wow.
All right, enough of that. Let's move on to the game.
That's from our Christmas performance last week.
I've lost complete control of this show.
What we're singing voice, Dustin.
Oh my God.
What?
This is what 2 hours of sleep would get you, right? Woo! All right. But let us move on and talk about this wonderful 36-16 game, the Seahawks beating the Packers. Mark, offensively, I believe it was myself, if I may toot my own horn, and I'm going to anyway, that said last week it would be a top 10 offense. And They didn't really do anything to disprove that, Mark, did they?
No, they sure didn't. It was unreal. You know, the stats I looked up were, I think it was 207 yards rushing, and we had 13 rushing first downs.
Oh, insane. Absolutely insane. Actually, the rushing yards were, 207. Very good. And almost 200 yards. So you're actually right there.
Congratulations.
It happened.
Every once in a while we get something right. Stats fan Mark, everybody. Got the stats right. All right.
Did you guys take Molly to spring bread or something? I mean, is that what this is?
Oh, my God. Will, what were your thoughts about the offensive production in this game for the Seahawks over the Packers?
One thing I was very heartened to see was just the play of our offensive line. I mean, they only gave up one sack, protected Wilson very well. But most of all, just the push they were getting on the running game. And I know Green Bay's defensive line minus B.J. Raji is pretty undersized. But just watching like J.R. Sweezy and Carpenter and, Justin Britt had a good game too, just stealing off the end on some of those runs. So our offensive line has gotten off to a great start.
My God, if Carpenter can do what he did last week for 16 games, that's a guy that I said at the end of last year, I'm really kind of in a doghouse after last year. He's always been injured, never really came up to his potential. But if someone that big can move that well and do what he's doing, he might become one of the best linemen in football. I hate to say it, but my goodness, that guy, his size, Dustin, he's huge, is he not?
Oh, he's a big boy, no doubt about it. And the Seahawks offense was a whole lot better. I mean, if you go right now and you look up the Seahawks stats in the standings, they're number one in points, yards, rushing yards. So obviously they made strides, huh? One game, they're number one.
Well, they're the only team that's played other than the Packers.
I took a screenshot of the page. I saw that. I'll send it to you. Put it up on the video.
But that also sort of blows Moses' top 10 offense out of the water as well, doesn't it?
Number one across the board.
Oh, we're not drinking tonight, I swear. We were going to, but we didn't. Oh, my God.
I am.
I'm a very observant person.
Matt,
I think our listeners are going to start drinking.
I think so too. Wow. And we were deciding whether to do a show or not this week, and this is what happens. Matt, offensively, it's hard to believe that Russell Wilson can actually get better, but what an amazing game he had Thursday.
He did have amazing. I mean, his vision downfield, and for little people with a test, it is difficult to get that vision downfield. But Russell Wilson is just seeing these receivers, effortlessly. They're where they're supposed to be. He's able to make those connections. The running, for me, it's running game, and watching these holes open up in the and let's be honest, we weren't playing, a pedestrian, mediocre team like San Francisco. We're playing, reasonable teams, and these holes are opening up in defense that are like, 20 yards wide. Marshawn could practically just walk down the middle of them. I mean, it's just a nonsense. I think that the potential for this team to have its offense match, the sort of status of its defense, that's just shocking. It shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be shocking at all.
It is. It's unbelievable. And I think again what I said last week, as far as Harvin, and he only had 100 total yards. And he did, but what he did to that defense as a decoy, as being out there, he's not going to put up Pro Bowl numbers. If you look at his numbers that Thursday game, they're okay. They're pretty good. But his impact on that game was way bigger than what he showed in the stat column. Because the one play where he moved, they faked the jet end around, and half the Packer team went with him, and I think it was Marshawn went 20 yards the other way or something. That's amazing. And one more thing about Russell. When they scored on that Lockett pass, he turned and pointed at Bevel, and I'd like to know, it was one of two, it had to be one of two things. I'll never know. But I would love to know what it was. It was either great call or I told you that would work. And I'd love to know which one it was. But in any event, it doesn't matter who gets credit for that call, Bevel or Russell. These two guys are coming up with different ways during the game to adjust and different ways to do different things. And it's amazing offensively. I still stand by a top 10. And, of course, Dustin was quick to send me a stat to prove. And if you go to NFL.com, it has the Seahawks is listed first offensively in every category. So, congratulations to the Seahawks.
Lordy.
Moses. Yes.
I'm a very observant person.
The other thing to consider in there as well as the performance of the tight ends. Zach Miller had an outstanding game.
Oh, didn't he?
And I've got to eat some crow. I have to do it because over the whole of the preseason and in the off season, I was very critical of tight ends. I was very critical of Zach Miller. In fact, I would have dropped him at one point. If he plays like that every week for the next, for the rest of the season, then I've got no problems with him. His blocking was phenomenal, and one-handed catch was fantastic. He was where he needed to be, and he did exactly what I wanted him to do. So again, shout out to the tight ends because I think for once I really do feel they had a massive impact.
And
he was on.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say he was on top of his game for sure. He had that catch, and then showed him out there blocking Clay Matthews, and he did a good job skilling him up. And then they showed him or that play he had where it should have been an interception. But he ended up turning around, knocking the ball down, saving the interception. I mean, that dude was on his game. I'm hoping to see more of that from him.
Well, and let's remember, when we got him, he was a Pro Bowl tight end. He does have the skill set to be one of the best tight ends in football. And when he first came here, our line was so horrendous, he spent a lot of time blocking. And then last year, he made a couple, he just hasn't had a chance to get out there. And so now you've got Harvin, you've got, Lynch, you've got Wilson, you've got all these, Baldwin, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, we've got a Pro Bowl tight end as well.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily like the way they measure a Pro Bowl tight end. He's not, because that's, touchdowns, receptions, and yards. That dude's doing blocks and making plays like that batted down interception. Those are the things that make a big difference, not necessarily all the flashy stats. That dude's willing to get in there and do everything, which is a huge help for this team.
He's made a huge impact, no doubt about it. Mark, final words on the offense, what you thought the offensive performance against Packers was like?
Well, I just wanted to remind everybody that among the off-season changes that Carpenter made is that he had Jared from Subway as his life coach.
It's working out really well so far.
Whew, it is. I don't think Jared has the footwork that Carpenter has, but I can understand Dustin saying how people don't measure up, especially tight ends. I get that. It's a good point. Let's take a quick break here at the end of the third quarter.
It's the end of the third quarter, bitches.
And we will come back and talk about the Seahawks' defensive performance in this 36-16 destruction of the Green Bay Packers. And we'll take a quick station identification. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Yeah, I love defense. You want points on the board, move to Indianapolis. See what that gets you. 3 points in a championship game and 7 months to explain your quarterback.
And now, it's time for the fourth quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. Here to lead us through the final quarter is once again our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Yes, thank you once again, Magic Voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam, and welcome to the fourth and final quarter of our show. If you're still listening, God bless you. I'm so glad that you're out there listening. We would like to hear from you. Once again, our address is 12thmanfanjam@gmail.com. You will see that in the closing credits if you didn't catch what I just said. So we'll talk about the fourth quarter. We talked about the offense in the third quarter. Let's talk about the Seahawks defense and the defensive performance in a 36-16 destruction of the Green Bay Packers from Thursday night. Mark, what was your view overall of the defensive effort by the Seahawks?
It was stellar, which is what we've come to expect. I believe we held Rodgers to, I think, 189 yards passing, and I think they only had 70 or so yards rushing.
Yeah, and you know, Dustin would be quick to point out that they're the second-ranked offense right now in the NFL. So
that's true. So that's pretty good.
Very true.
You know, but even though you say they shut down Rodgers, and they kind of did, but I still felt, Will, that you know Rodgers played a pretty good game. I mean, this guy is pretty good, isn't he?
Well, you know, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. There's no question about it, and he was taking what the Seahawk defense was giving him, and you know, nothing cheap, no long plays, but he was able to complete those dump-offs and do the checkdowns. And while I appreciated that we were finally able to get some pressure on Rodgers in the second half, I spent a good chunk of the first half going, okay, come on, get to him, disrupt him, get to him. So, you know, it's something to work on, but overall, yeah, it was a great defensive performance, obviously, and I think that's one that's going to frustrate a lot of coaches around the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, were you upset defensively about the lack of pressure in the game for the first half?
No, not really. I mean, I have to say, I think their centre did a better job than I gave him credit for last week. He only had one. He had one slip up, you know, one count issue. But if your opening game is going to be in Seattle as a rookie centre, then fifth round pick, what a baptism of fire. And I think he did okay. I think Rodgers was, for me, at some points he was sort of snatching at some of his throws and stuff, which is what my interpretation of getting pressure to him in the half. I think defensively, we did well. Obviously, Maxwell had a much tougher evening than Sherman, but I think he held his own. I mean, obviously they got some yards on him, but you expect that from the amount of times that he was actually involved in the play. But yeah, I mean, I think we did well.
Good, Dustin. What were your thoughts overall about the defense?
I thought overall they looked pretty good, but there's a lot of little things they can clean up. There was a lot of hitting but not wrapping up and driving, which is something they prided themselves on last year, was their ability to finish a tackle. There was way too many broken tackles for my liking. But, I mean, other than that, they look pretty good. Got the interception. They got the safety. I mean, there's lots of things going on that they look good. And there's a teaching point, like I said, for some of that stuff. And even Richard Sherman said he wasn't satisfied with their performance on defense, but he was probably just bored. So he had a lot of time to watch the game and not play it necessarily.
Well, the other thing to think about, there is the question in here that we haven't spoken about, but we really should do, is the use of defensive players within special teams, such as Earl Thomas and the punts that went sort of slightly off kilter. And I think we have to come back to that. And one of the things I wanted to say really was that all of the qualities that make Earl Thomas a fantastic, probably is the best safety in the league, are the same sorts of qualities that make me worried about him being a punt returner.
Yes.
Because I want my punt. I want my punt return. I want my safety to be hunting for the ball, always looking for an opportunity to cause a turnover, always looking for an opportunity to run the ball. Always, that's what I want him to do. As a punt returner, I need the Kenny Rogers of punt returners. I need him to know when to hold it, when to run it, and when not to do anything at all. And he doesn't have that, and he has this. He's so competitive. He's the most competitive person on this planet, probably, and he wants to run every time. I don't want a punt returner that does that. I want a punt returner who understands the situation that he's in at that moment, and I want him to know whether to fair catch it or run it, and only he can make that call.
Yeah, right.
Well,
now,
and also, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm saying right now it kind of looks like the Ricky Bobby punt returns. He just wants to go fast. He needs to learn how to adjust fire and.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's no shame in a fair catch. Just isn't.
Yep.
Well, and there's also it's not just trying to run with it all the time. If you remember that one punt return, the short punt return in the second quarter where Thomas couldn't get to it, we nearly had a Seahawk player blocked onto the ball, which would have made it live. And it didn't look like Thomas had broadcast, the little wave off signal. It's like, get away, get away, get away. So it's little things. I mean, you're talking about a guy who hasn't returned punts since college, and there's a lot of little things that if he's going to be doing this, he needs to pick up again and quickly.
Agreed. Jeremy Lane that almost kicked ball, by the way.
I was screaming at Jeremy Lane then. For me, guys, I would have Percy Harvin. I know that's risky, too. I would have him do punts as well.
Me too.
Or Ricardo Lockett. It's going to be fast. And the other thing is, by putting a defender in as a punt returner, he's just done a series. He's just done, I don't know how many snaps and been safety in the middle of the field. How gassed is he going to be if he's going to do a run? It's just not. For me, it's just not a sensible decision, and I don't know what the rationale is, but it's not something that is sitting comfortably at all.
Yeah, I think we're on agreement. I think if Earl's going to be our punt returner, then this one's for him.
Well, if you remember, Dennis,
That's right,
remember
Earl.
last year.
I'm sorry, what, Will?
Sorry about that. If you remember last year, we had problems with our kickoff returners. We had Jermaine Kearse running back kicks in Harvin's absence until he fumbled, and then Carroll got somebody else running back kicks. And so I think Thomas, he's got maybe one more fumble or one more misstep in him before Carroll says, nope, you're not doing this anymore.
I believe it was Baldwin and Thurman both did it, I believe.
Yes.
I want to say...
Yeah, Baldwin did a good job. He didn't fumble or make any real mistakes, but a couple of the others did.
Yeah, I'd like to see somebody better than Earl. We talked about that last week. I think it's still a concern. I think it's definitely something we need to look at.
Well, Wilson, as in tight end or something, I just don't think the defense need to be doing that. That's just, if with all the speed and all the fantastic runners that we have on our team, that we can't find somebody that can do that role, that's a bit worrying, but I wouldn't put him in.
I'm all for Harvin doing it. I mean, he'll figure it out. And you figure that's probably 6, 8, maybe 10 more touches a game that guy gets. Anytime that ball's in his hand, he can make something happen. So why not throw him out there? He's one of the most dynamic players in the league. Let him make something happen.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I like to see Harvin try it. I would like to see Baldwin do it. I just feel like exactly what Matt said, he hit it right on the head. What makes Earl Thomas a great defender is what's going to be a handicap in the punt return. And I couldn't agree more with that. Look, Earl Thomas is one of the fastest guys in the team, and if he gets the ball in space as a punt returner where he can catch it and come down, and then if he could do that every time where he could catch it and have 10 yards to think about what he's going to do, he's going to be a great punt returner, but wouldn't we all be? Except me, who you could time with the calendar. But
well, no.
Yeah, but the fact is that's not going to be always the case. There's going to be things like last night where you're going to have a guy right in your face. What do? Do you call for fair catch? Do you not call for fair catch? Do you let it bounce? Do you not let it bounce? There's so much more to this punt return, and I hate to say it, and I don't miss Golden Tate, but Golden Tate as a punt returner was a big part of this team that if we had to pick something that's missing right now from the turnover of the offseason, to me, it's a punt returner. It's that simple.
I agree, but I think we have guys on the roster that can do it. They just need to let them. Yeah. Let the rookie give it a shot. Richardson can give it a quick shot,
Someone.
Yeah.
Or maybe Norwood when he gets healthy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did Walters, was it Walters, what's his name? Is it Walters or Waters? What's his name? Brian, is it?
Oh, Walters.
Walters. Did he not do one as well in the end?
He did a couple in the preseason, but didn't he muff one as well, if I'm not mistaken? For almost muff one.
He caught one in the game yesterday.
Yeah, he got one, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They pulled a roll at the very end of it and let him do it. So I don't know if that was just let him do it to do it because the game was out of hand at that point anyways, or they were just Earl got pulled. Maybe Earl already got pulled off of it and we don't realize that yet. I don't know.
I was going to say, because Pete Carroll said, he obviously said that he should have fair catched both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder whether that was the reason why I didn't do that last one, was because, you can make one mistake and be told, obviously you've got to know when to fair catch it, but you can't do it twice.
Right.
Not in the same game. Not if you've just been told. You can't do it twice. So
I agree.
Maybe he has. I don't know. We'll see.
That could have been, in essence, the same thing when they benched Browner last year because he wasn't playing up to par. Just get under his skin, make him realize he's doing something wrong, so he comes back on fire. That could have been the equivalent of benching Earl Thomas, basically, is what that could have been.
You wouldn't need to do that with Earl Thomas. I mean, the man is hyper competitive, so you wouldn't need to do that. He brushed it off already and said, I was just being me, and as I said at the beginning, that's the problem. He's a fantastic safety, but I don't need a safety doing a punt return. So that's the problem.
Good point.
Yeah, great point. One last question about the defense, and I'll start with Mark. Having Richard Sherman not thrown to the entire game. Mark, do you think this is something we're going to see all year, or do you think this was something last week? And do you think it helped? Do you think it didn't help? I don't know. What are your thoughts on let's not throw to the entire side of the football field for the whole game?
Well, he stays on that side of the field, and he's guarding essentially covering their number 3 receiver, and it's fine. I mean, he's always paying attention. He's bored, but at least he's going to be alert the whole game. And if they ignore one side of the field, then I just see it as a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, what are your thoughts on the whole Sherman? How they've been dealing with him?
Well, somebody made the point that by basically ignoring Sherman's side of the field, it turns your right tackle into your blindside offensive tackle.
True.
Since all you're doing is looking to your left, you're not paying attention to your right, and puts more stress on the right tackle. When you have a team like Green Bay that their right tackle got hurt, I guess he's got a torn MCL, has a backup coming in, that's really going to be a problem. It's also going to be a problem even if your tackle's not hurt, because your right tackle basically is not the pass blocking specialist that your left tackle is. But if they don't want to throw to Sherman, don't throw to Sherman. The other guys are stepping up, and if we shut down a whole third of the field without even trying, hey, good for us. I
kind of feel the same way. Matt, what's your view on it?
It's a product of what he is, the best corner in the league. It's what happens. As I said at the beginning, if you've got quarterbacks of the caliber of Aaron Rodgers who are turning around saying, actually, do you know what? I'm going to put it in your way because you are going to pick me. I just know you are. That if they want to limit their own offense by a third of the field, then who are we to argue? The trick will be though is to see what teams along the line take this and see this footage and say, actually, that didn't work for Green Bay. So actually, Richard Sherman, you're not going to be as quiet as you think you are, because they've just proven on national television on the league opening night that ignoring Sherman does not win you games.
Right. Very good. And finally, I believe Dustin.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think that if Sherman's out there and he's shutting down that side of the field to the point where people are not willing to throw to him, they're basically handicapping their own offense, because they're taking away a lot of things they can do, which makes our defensive coordinator's life a lot easier. So I'm all for it. Don't throw at Sherman. I don't care. You're not going to win games.
Yep, I agree. Final thoughts on this game. I told my son, I said, this, first game of the year doesn't usually mean a whole lot, but to me, it was a statement game before it started. And I said, if we blow this team out like people think we're going to, then this team is clearly, and I hate to say this as a Seahawk fan, we're not used to saying this about our own team, but I don't know how you could look at what happened Thursday night and say that the Seahawks aren't the best team in football again. If it lose or if it was close, I'd say, okay, we're back to this. But honestly, I don't think the Packers played poorly. They made good plays on defense. Clay Matthews is an absolute beast. I really liked HaHa Clinton Dix. I thought he's got some things to learn, but I thought he was pretty good as a safety. I can see why people picked them to maybe win their division. Eddie Lacy ran like a Mack truck. Aaron Rodgers, I didn't feel like anybody played poorly. Cobb had catches. Jordy Nelson had catches. But here's the thing. They lost by 20 points. Even though the Seahawks clearly didn't play their best game, they were still, even when we were home, they were 20 points better than a team that people think is going to go to the Super Bowl. And that should scare the absolute bejesus out of the rest of the NFL right now, in my opinion. Because to me, all it showed in one game, and it's one game, but all it showed me is that the Seahawks picked off right where they left off. They are clearly the best team in the NFL, and I just don't see anyone that's even close right now. Mark, do you agree, disagree?
Well, naturally, I agree, and it's just this team. may prove to be the exception to this whole thing of, win a Super Bowl, don't make the playoffs. I mean, they're a young team. They kept all their core players. They didn't lose anyone that they couldn't replace. And the ball, this team, pretty much by its quarterback, but the team itself is as mentally tough as they come. The mental toughness, the team psyche of the Seahawks is as strong as anybody, if not more so, in the entire league.
I absolutely agree. Dustin, what do you say?
I'm on board, man. I mean, it was just they're good. it is it is scary how good they're going to be. Yeah, I don't know that I have too much more to add to that. It's just going to be fun to watch. Another fun ride, basically.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're in the middle of a fun ride. Matt, are you on board with the fun ride?
Well, look, the team is better than last year. I'll say that. Now, if it's better than last year, if its offensive weapons can stay healthy, if we can have that three-pronged approach of an intelligent, quick-thinking quarterback, a running back like Marshawn Lynch, Percy Harvin just completely disrupting everything that the defensive coaches want to, do, then we are better than last year. So our offense is clicking, our defense is clicking. We've got a third of the field shut down because nobody wants to throw to it, and we were not playing mediocre opposition last night.
No,
we're not playing Jacksonville. We're not playing. We're not playing the Texans. We are playing proper division winners, quality material. And the thing about the Packers, what lost the game for the Packers, in my opinion, is not just the fact that we dominated them completely, but they were not mentally tough at the key moments. They did do penalties which forced first downs on third and outs. They did, screw up and cause a safety. They weren't mentally tough at those moments. We were mentally tough at those moments. When we needed a 7-8 minute drive at the end of that game to kill it off, what did we produce? The 7 and 8 minute drive to kill that off.
Yep.
So what we needed to do, we did. And if there are teams, let's not get complacent there, people, because there are teams out there that can give us a bloody nose, because we've seen it happen. But we are better than last year.
Yeah. We were talking about going into this game that this is potentially a game that could have playoff ramifications as far as seeding goes, because a lot of people think the Packers are Super Bowl favorites, so we may have just got one up on maybe getting that number one seed again, potentially.
Absolutely. Will, your thoughts on just how good this team is right now?
Well, they passed their first test with flying colors. I was very happy to see what I saw Thursday night. And I just go back to what the team themselves say. What's next?
Exactly.
1-0, go 1-0 every week, championship opportunity every week. I want to see them come out, have a good week of practice, go down to San Diego and beat a Chargers team that they should beat. Yep. And let's keep this rolling.
I agree. I'll kind of close with this. I hate to ever say this in public, but here I am saying it on the show. Michael Irvin. Yeah, I know Michael Irvin, who I cannot stand, but Michael Irvin went to a practice during the Super Bowl, and he came back from that practice, and his eyes were the size of 8 balls, and he said, this team has it. Now, this is a guy, remember, who was on some Super Bowl champions, plural, more than one. And during NFL Network yesterday, they were all saying, can you repeat in this day and age? And, of course, the 3 guys on the panel who have 1 ring were going, oh, well, it's so hard to repeat, and I just don't think in today's world you can do it. And they got to Michael Irvin, and he said, this is not the kind of team that you've seen around here in the last 5 or 6 years. Their mental toughness is their strength, not their weakness. And he swears up and down that they are going to repeat. This is from a guy who won a couple Super Bowls and also repeated himself. He knew how tough they were mentally, and he sees the same thing in these Seahawks. I'll take his word and his multiple rings over the guys on that staff that have 1 ring that don't know how to repeat because they didn't get to do it themselves. But that guy was the only one on the staff that said, wait, these guys are different. And it's hard as a Seahawk fan. It's hard as a Seahawk fan to sit here and say, you know, they're the best team in the NFL because you sound like a homer. And we do sound like a homer. But you know what? This is the best team in football right now. And I don't see anybody that's even close at this point. And I'll say
they're number 1 across the board if you look.
Right now they're number 1. And the Packers played like number 2. No, they're number 2. And at the end of the week, we'll see if they're still number 1. But right now, any final thoughts before we close the show from anybody? All right, everyone's It's been a great show, hasn't it? Wow. It's time to bring another awe-inspiring 12th Man Fan Jam show to a close. We're so glad you were able to waste some time thinking about the Seahawks with us. We hope you've been entertained, enlightened, and enthralled while we spent our time together. We hope you learned something. And what did we learn this evening? Well, we learned that Wes Walker is a victim. We learned that Dustin is short, and we learned that Matt is bugging. So, on behalf of my partner in crime, Matt, the wonderful 12th Man Fan Jam posse, Statsman Mark, Shadowhawk Will, X-Ray Hawk Dustin, this is your self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity, saying we hope you had as much fun as we did. And next week we'll come back and we'll talk about the San Diego Chargers and your defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Go Hawks!
Go Hawks! Go Hawks!